Today marks the 20th anniversary of the attacks that brought down the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York, along with several other buildings in the area, including a church, and that damaged a portion of the Pentagon in Washington. It was a day none of us who were old enough to watch will ever forget. Most of us remember exactly where we were and what we were doing. We all had a gradual dawning on that day that our world would be unalterably different after the attacks than before. And we were right. For the past 20 years, we have been focused on the war on terror as it has come to be known. Today, we remember those who lost their lives. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Saturday, September 11th, 2021. Nearly everyone who died on that beautiful fall day 20 years ago were focused on the day's business. Most were business people, either beginning their workday in the office or attending meetings. Others were airline passengers going about the routine of flying to business meetings or returning home after Monday meetings. Others were flying to see family or to go to or from vacation. Still others were pilots and flight attendants putting in a routine day. Still others were soldiers or sailors going about the routine administrative tasks of running the world's most powerful military. Finally, others, firefighters and police officers, were going about the routine business of rescuing people from burning buildings. The key word here is routine. It was an otherwise ordinary and routine day filled with people doing routine things that was suddenly upended and their lives cut short. In terms of actual loss of life, I initially expected much higher numbers. I believed at the time that the World Trade Center towers, for example, would have had several times more people inside them than they did. And compared in simple numbers, there have been bigger events in terms of loss of life, but no event compares in terms of its impact on us as Americans and even on people around the world. At some level, nearly every nation and every citizen of every nation has had to deal with or come to terms with the mess created by a small number of determined terrorists on that day. And for 20 years, people have struggled to make some sense of it all. I pay attention to movies and literature to see how a culture begins to interpret what has happened. It took several years, for example, before filmmakers dared to even recreate the scenes of the actual attacks, not wanting to appear to profit off of a tragedy of that magnitude. Many other films have been made about the experience of our military campaigns in Iraq and Afghanistan. Others have focused on the intelligence operations involved in tracking down terrorist leaders, none more urgently than Osama bin Laden. I don't know that we have together finally and fully made sense of it all, even now. Is it a problem of religious fanaticism reaching its logical conclusion? Is it a problem of one religion attacking another religion? Is it one culture hating another culture so vehemently that it decided terrorist attacks targeting innocent people was acceptable? Is it the story of America standing up to bullies around the world? I don't know that we finally have or completely decided what to make of it all. Sure, different ones of us have created different narratives that make sense to us, but I mean as a people. I don't think we have formed a complete narrative that helps us together make sense of it all. Not yet, anyway. And what this tells me is that we are still thinking, we are still reflecting, we're still pondering, we're still sifting through our collective memories, and that's really okay. It often takes time, years, decades, to sort through events this big. If nothing else, Our lack of a final narrative tells us just how big an event this was. So today, instead of trying to focus on the narrative arc of the events of 9/11 in the past 20 years, maybe it's enough to focus on the lives lost, the futures cut short. Turn to just about any online news source this weekend, and you'll find stories of individual people who died on 9/11 and their families. One recent story I saw focused on the children born after their dads died on that day. Another recent story I read focused on the fragmenting of a family that could never quite come together to agree on what to do with the letters and diaries left behind by a young man. One outlet I've read has a link to the biographies of all the passengers and crew of United Flight 93, the flight on which several passengers took on the terrorists and likely prevented the plane from attacking another target in Washington that morning. So whatever else you do today, and whatever sense you make out of the events of that day and the 20 years of dealing with it since, today, find a person to remember and give thanks. And now may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.